reason why I'm a little bit of a mess right now, physically, like I'm not really put together, is because I'm done performing physically. I really want to just be myself and style myself in a way that makes me happy, and that means not going to great lengths to hide what society deems as flaws, such as my acne or being barefaced as a woman. A lot of people tell me that I look so much better with full bangs across my face, but I realize that my bangs just really frustrate me, and I want to wear my hair swooped to the side like this, and I'm gonna grow it out. And it just, I used to make videos, like I used to be on TikTok, and I deleted TikTok because of all the misogyny and bullying and the way that TikTok is set up, and I can make a video on that another time if you would like, if I would want to express it as well. I guess I could. And I would just feel so exhausted after having to put on makeup and look perfect for the camera, and then I would lose energy and I would almost kind of ruin it, like wondering, oh, do I look perfect enough? And I feel like it made it hard being on TikTok, because there was a lot of there was men who were being misogynistic to me on there, and who would make fun of my appearance and point out any single flaw that they could see on my face, such as you can see right now that I struggle with minor acne, and if I made a video without covering up a pimple, like a single pimple, I would have men commenting on my video, pimple, pimple, pimple face, you have a pimple, and just like they just had to point it out. They just had to tell me what was obvious. I don't really know why, but I feel like I shouldn't even have to say that. I feel like that's for me too, to kind of solidify that I'm making this change for the new 2026 year, along with my other goals, such as reading at least 30 pages a day of books, not just rereading the same book over and over, same 30 pages. Anyway, I don't need, and that is, I have not been following that goal of reading 30 pages every single day, but I have been reading more. So I do feel like that works, and some days, yeah, I do pick up a book and I'll read at least 30 pages. Also, writing at least 1,000 words of my book, which is coming out at the end of the year. Congrats to me! Self-publishing, but still, like, pat on the back. And I'm about like 1/3 of the way through, and I just really want to get her done. And what are my other goals? Oh yeah, I want my arms to get stronger. I've got some weak arms. And I want to sleep more. And back to the beauty conversation, I got rid of all my makeup. So like I don't even have a choice now. I had like a whole case of makeup and it's gone because I don't want to do it anymore. It's just, I don't really enjoy it. Also, I'm not really painting my nails anymore. I don't really enjoy waiting for my nails to dry. I'm done. I'm done. Like, I totally understand like why like people are like, oh, why do women just like let themselves go? Like, like why do they just cut their hair and stop wearing makeup? Like, because we don't want to. Like, we don't want to conform to society anymore. And also that's sort of what my book is about. It's sort of about like, it takes, oh, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's a little bit about like femininity and like what that means and stuff. Like, yeah, girls. Yeah, I love learning about times in history and the expectations that women had. Like, I went through this huge phase where I would study medieval England. I think there's a book called The Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England. That one's really good, and I would learn about all the superstitions in medieval England and all those like mythological creatures, like the siren and what that meant, and like the unicorn, and just like the different rules and different customs and different expectations that people had during that time in medieval England, and religion and how that tied in, and how like so much of the population in medieval England was very young, that honestly probably contributed to people being like violent, because the younger a generation is, statistically the more violent they are. It's crazy. Back then, if you were like 8 years old, you were already considered an adult. And right now I'm focusing on learning about Victorian England. And the women back then had such pressure to perform, especially like for the men, and to find a husband if you were like a high society elite lady, like trying to snag a well-to-do man in Victorian England, and you just like had no idea who you were getting as a husband. It was basically like an arranged marriage. You just like, most people then didn't marry for love. And that's really scary. I'm grateful for times and the place that I live in now. Present times in my country, where I can choose who I am with, and that I can go out and about to Walmart in my pajamas. God bless America. Have times changed? I would love to give the people back then a glimpse into present time, and I as well wonder what the future will hold. I did not mean to talk for 7 minutes about things that I wasn't even planning on talking about for the video, but I'm very proud of myself, because a lot of times when I put a camera down and try to make a video, I get all tongue-tied, I get nervous, I stumble on my words, I stop talking, and it's just been a constant flow of my thoughts, which I feel like is better than that alternative. But today, I wanted to talk to you about having autism level 1, and I also have ADHD, which I feel like probably plays into some of my experiences and who I am, and take everything I say at face value, of course. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, although I've taken like 5 psychology courses and I really wanted to be a psychologist. I probably have also studied so much psychology that I could probably ace a graduating psychology course. I know that sounds really egotistical, but I mean, I really wanted to be a psychologist, but like things didn't turn out how I wanted them to, so yeah, sorry. But don't take this, what I'm saying, don't take this as medical information about autism, okay? Take this as somebody who has autism level 1 talking about their experience as someone who has autism level 1, and that's it. You can see this video as something to relate to, or you can say, oh, that's me too, or you could say, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that people experience that, or you can even make a commentary like, I don't think that even has anything to do with autism level 1. I mean, I would listen. I'm here for feedback too, but disclaimer, I have been professionally diagnosed. I'm not saying that I don't see self-diagnosing as valid, because like I said, I'm so in tune like with a lot of psychology, and that psychology is very interesting to me, that like, I mean, I honestly self-diagnosed myself before I got diagnosed, and I feel like that is the reality of getting diagnosed with autism level 1 nowadays as an adult, seeing that, oh, why am I struggling so much? And then you learn about a little bit about autism through like books or social media, and then you say, that sounds just like what I'm struggling with. And you have to advocate for yourself. You have to find the doctors yourself. You have to go to the office yourself, ask for tests. Like, you have to initiate everything. So for autism level 1, for a lot of people, without self-diagnosing yourself first, or at least highly suspecting that you have autism, you wouldn't be able to get that official diagnosis, okay? So I'm definitely not against self-diagnosing, but I do want to claim, in case anybody was thinking, you might be confusing your autism with something else. My doctor has told me that what I struggle with is definitely autism, and that I don't have something like borderline personality or bipolar, so I don't have those comorbidities. And looking at it myself, I also agree that I don't have those, but I do have autism and I do have ADHD. I have undiagnosed, so yeah, I diagnosed myself on this, OCD, which I feel like also ties into my autism, because sometimes I just do, I do have OCD, and then other times it could just be like my autism, but because of like my autism, sometimes I have trouble reading my body cues. So like, I drink like way too much water. And autism is like a spectrum, so for a lot of the symptoms, you usually will do like way too much of it or way too little, or you may be like way too sensitive to something, or you might be like, you really seek it out. Like, some people who have autism, they hate loud noises in concerts, and that's me. Like, I do not like concerts. But some people like love like that sensory stimuli, or they might be some, like, how some autistics like are the sock wearers, and some are like the not sock wearers, and I'm a sock wearer. I wear my socks like 24/7. So I guess I'm a little bit more of a sensory avoidant autistic. But yeah, like, and I used to struggle with PTSD, with trauma. I had trauma, and it's kind of interesting to look back at, because I know someone, I don't want to like point out who it is, but I know someone who went through pretty much the same thing I did, and they didn't develop PTSD from it. I think it's really, really bad. If I were to tell you what happened to me, you would probably also think it was really, really bad. Let's just say it has to do with like abuse. And our brains like handle things differently. I also know, like, I'm not saying what they went through, or their grieving process for the trauma and what happened to them was any lesser than mine. But it did seem like they had more of a support system than I did going out of that. Like, they had friends around them to support them, to be there for them emotionally, and I really didn't. So that's really hard. And if you didn't know, when you go through trauma, the way it's received after, and the kind of comfort you get, and like people being there for you, is like so important, like for your healing, and for that not to like hurt you so much in the long run. The person that I'm referring to, who went through like pretty much the same thing I did, their brain just handles it differently, because they don't really remember it. And I remember pretty much everything. I mean, not like in my whole life, but like everything that's bad, trauma-wise, that happened to me, and the abuse, oh yeah, I remember. And with the PTSD, I remembered that vividly. Like, whenever something would trigger me or I would get scared, it would be like I was back in that room, and like I can see it. Like, I could see it happening before me. I have a pretty good long-term memory. I have these weird moments where it feels like I jump back in time, where I could like space out and think back in the past. I feel like that's kind of has to do with why change is so hard for me and why losing friends is so hard for me. And frankly, I still miss all the friends that I used to have, like going back all the way from my first friends back in preschool, because it feels like not that long ago that we were like exchanging graham crackers and or like animal crackers and like coloring at our preschool table, and like I remember that, and I remember how it felt. I remember several days from preschool. I remember hanging out with my friends. Like I remember being in elementary school, and it just feels like, oh, that like happened like 2 months ago, right? But it happened so long ago. It's hard to explain how my memories work, but okay. That was sort of a tangent as well, but just putting that out there so you can kind of compare that, like, oh, I've also have these kind of comorbidities along with autism, also suspected dyslexia. I'm not self-diagnosing that, but I'm just gonna say it's suspected because as I was learning about it, it could also be like an ADHD thing, just getting like really distracted when I'm reading. But I had so much trouble reading when I was a kid, like I like so bad at it. But I mean, I grew up in like was an English major. Now I'm like writing books and stuff, so all worked out in the end. But yeah, those are like, so sorry about the long tangent. If I was on TikTok right now, people would be making fun of me so bad right now. But this is YouTube. YouTube, you guys either click out of the video and say nothing, as in the, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, or you just like move on because you're gonna keep your peace and enjoy something else, or you just like, or are nice, you know? I feel like YouTube is, YouTube's better, in my opinion. I've always been a YouTube girl. So that's just what I have. Autism level 1, ADHD, suspected OCD, suspected dyslexia, and previously had PTSD but don't have PTSD anymore. So what are oh my god. This is the kind of video that you just put on the audio and listen to it while you clean, while you lay in bed, while you groom your dog. Do not, I mean, unless you want to, unless you like that, don't just sit there and watch my video and do nothing else. Like, this is a great video for you to multitask to, like, listen and do something, because this is a tangent video. This is one where you just like, all right, I'm just gonna hone in for a couple hours. I'm listening. I hope this video doesn't run for 2 hours. I didn't even bring my water in my room. My water's in the living room. Oh, but I just have to think, oh no, you probably had plenty of water today. You don't need any more water, because I had tea, and then I had like fruit water, and then I had more water, and I just have a problem with drinking too much water. That's my part of the spectrum. Is a lot of autistics struggle with drinking not enough water. I struggle with drinking too much water. I'm like thirsty all the time. I always want to be guzzling up that water. Water. It actually became a problem because I drank so much water that I would get like shaky, and my kidneys were like overwhelmed trying to filter out that water, and I had to cut back on water, and then I wasn't shaky anymore. So I would say that's the cause of it, is drinking too much water. So I'm gonna get into a little bit of what I deal with as somebody who is autism level 1, and why it's difficult. I feel like this is a good video and a good topic because there's more and more women realizing that they have autism, and there's a condition that has very specific symptoms that they relate to and ways of dealing with those different symptoms and accommodating yourself, which you didn't have previously before. Because me, like I'm sure many of you, when you were younger, you probably constantly would think, what's wrong with me, and not really have a fair conclusion, and you just feel like you're sort of a mess of a person, like you're a mess up of a person. Like if you were in a factory, you were kind of like the reject product of the factory line, where you come out of the factory all damaged and squiggly, and then but you have to somehow still end up with all the nicely made regular products, and you still have to like try to function like they do, but you know secretly that there's something really, really wrong with you. So I would say, for something that I struggle with, especially when I was younger, because as I grow older, I have more and more wisdom. I also have a good support system in this with my boyfriend, who has a lot of common sense, and I grew up with a dad who is pretty rational, but I unfortunately didn't get those genes or that skill. But I would struggle with naivety and like taking care of myself when I would live on my own. So when I moved out for the first time when I was 18 and I was living in a dorm, I feel like this also probably had to do with me having depression at the time, but also I really didn't know how to like take care of myself very well. And like, of course, it is a struggle for people moving out at 18, having to say like, oh, I have to do all the chores now, I have to take on all these responsibilities, and it's a learning process. But when I had my dorm room, it was so messy that there were like, I had think of like the stereotype of somebody who's like the lazy college kid who has this disaster of a room with clothes and dirty socks like strewn everywhere, with food on the ground, 4-day-old pizza. That was kind of me. I did not like pick up after myself, and I found like I had only stayed like one semester, so like 4 months. I would just like ditch my classes and sleep, and one time I slept for how long was it? I want to say it was like, I can't remember if it was 38. I think I slept for about 38 hours straight or so. Yeah, and it was really weird when I woke up because I thought the apocalypse was happening, because I was really, really confused like about that skip of time. When I was moving out of the dorm room and out of college, because I just dropped out, there were ants everywhere on the floor. I don't know how long they had been there. I know that like when I was in my room, I just spent like the entire time in my room on my bed, and like I like never sat at my desk, never like barely even like walked around the room. I just like jumped in bed and just laid there for hours. and that was kind of my life. And the only thing that was getting me going through college, being there, was the emotional support animals that would come once a week, and I would hang out with specifically the cat that was there. Everybody knew that I loved that cat so much, and one time I was sleeping and I was like almost missed going to see the therapy animals, and somebody they sent somebody from the therapy animals program to like knock on my door and say, are you okay? Why aren't you with the animals? You're there every week. And I was like, oh yeah, no, like I'm awake, I'm ready to go see the animals. And when I was there, I think that I wasn't eating enough because, or I just like wasn't hungry or something, but I would forget, like, I was losing weight, and I thought it was weird because I'm like, aren't you, like, isn't it the typical thing to, like, gain weight when you're away at college? But I was, like, losing weight, and I was like, that's kind of weird. I just wasn't, like, eating enough. And then, you know, my mom wasn't there to feed me. And, but then, like, later in the semester, I think that, like, I decided that I was gonna start feeding myself. I think it was really too hard for me to, like, get down to the cafeteria all the time and, like, be around all those people and, like, eat the food there. So I just, like, wouldn't eat. But one day I had this brilliant idea. Oh my gosh, this crazy story. I had this idea that I was gonna go to the Walmart, which was pretty much across the street, to get a saucepan, whatever you call it, a cooking pan, so I could regularly make pasta, because I really liked buttered noodles with salt. It was like a staple meal for me. I loved it. I still love it, but I really try not to eat it because of what happened before and how carried away I got with it. I went to Walmart in the middle of the night. It was probably like, I can't even remember if Walmart was 24-hour. I don't think so, but I think they closed really late, like 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. And this was like out in the country. So there weren't many people in the Walmart. I think when I was at the Walmart, the last customers were me and then this guy behind me who was probably about like 26 or something. And he was buying a 6-pack of beer and I was buying a saucepan. And he offered me a ride home. And I was thinking, well, if he, like, tries anything, I'll just hit him with the pan. So that was kind of my thinking. It was kind of really naive. And so I got into the car with him, and, like, it was silent pretty much the whole ride. It was a pretty short ride, right? Because it was, like, pretty much just across the street. But we had to, like, go across the light and, like, turn into the campus and, like, all these, you know, leave the Walmart. So it's like, it took like a few minutes. And just like, after like sitting in silence for a moment, he just said, "You smell nice." And I just said, "Thanks," you know, like preppy. I was like, "Thanks," you know. I don't know why I said it like that, but definitely wasn't like interested in him like that, but I just wanted the ride, I guess. I don't know. So I started making buttered noodles in the dorm kitchen, the common kitchen area, all the time, but I didn't want to make it when anybody else was in the common area. I wanted to be by myself, so I would make also, with my crazy sleep schedule, etc., I would go down to the kitchen area at like 3 a.m. Oh, yeah, I would also go down at 3 a.m. because that's when Disney Channel played Phineas and Ferb and like other Disney shows that I would watch and stuff. And one time at the Walmart, I got Phineas and Ferb Cheez-Its, and I just had to eat them while I was watching Phineas and Ferb really early. It might have been like 4 a.m., but it was pretty early. I'm like, I have to eat these Cheez-Its while watching this show. It would be so much fun. And it was really fun. You know what? Until a few girls walked into the kitchen. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, because it's a common area kitchen. We share it. They have as much entitlement to use the kitchen as me. But me, I am so awkward and I hate being perceived. So I was just like, as soon as I came in, I was just like, you know, and I feel like I felt a little bit awkward because I was like there all by myself, just like nibbling on Phineas and Ferb Cheez-Its while watching Phineas and Ferb, like, really early while it was still dark out, and yeah. But I was not getting nutrients, all right? I was living, and I would also get, I would also get candy. So, like, I would get really hungry, and I would be like, okay, it's butter noodle time, and I'd go down to the kitchen, and I would make myself a big bowl of buttered noodles. Yeah, man. And it was good, let me tell you, it was good. And I would just eat things that I like. I was like, if you teach a 6-year-old how to use the stove, and you're like, okay, sweetheart, you gotta put water in the stove, in the pan, and then you gotta wait for the bubbles to come up, and then you put the pasta in there, and then watch the little clock, and then when the 10 minutes pass, your pasta done, and then put some butter in it. Like, if you give a 6-year-old access to the kitchen, I don't even know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I was basically eating what a free-range 6-year-old would eat. Minus, like, microwave stuff. I'm sure they would have chicken nuggets, which I love. I love chicken nuggets. Vegetarian, though, because I'm a vegetarian, mostly because of sensory issues. Ew! I hate the aftertaste of meat. I don't drink milk either, because I don't like the aftertaste of milk. Milk is gross to me. And I would have candy. I would go to the store and I would get those, like, what are those called? Like Rolos with the caramel inside? And I would get the Milk Duds with the caramel and the chocolate. Yummy. And that's what I was eating, okay? So I was on a diet for weeks for butter noodles, Cheez-Its, and caramel chocolate candy. So, you know, at the start of the semester, I was not really going into the kitchen, or I was not really going into the cafeteria where everyone ate. So, a lot, you know, so I would miss out on meals. I think I wasn't eating enough and I was getting hungry, whatever. So I was losing weight. But then as soon as I started that butter noodle candy Cheez-It diet, I started packing on those pounds. Not that much though, because I feel like genetically I just like have more of like a slimmer body type. I just like my metabolism is nice. Let's just say that. But I did pack on the pounds a little bit. So like my health, when put into my own hands, was not great. And as you can see, my decision making and staying safe, hitchhiking basically with this random guy, no honey. I really liked animals, of course, which is relevant to the story back then. I love animals too. One time I decided I was gonna walk to the animal shelter. The animal shelter was I think it was at least a 4-hour walk away through the countryside, which I was very unfamiliar with. I'm not from that area, right? And so I would just like get out my phone, Google map it, and was like, all right, here I go. Took an over 4-hour walk to the animal shelter, found out it was closed. I probably could have Googled that, and then, or like called them to make sure like they were open before walking 4 hours. And then, you know what, I walked over 4 hours back to campus. So like 8.5-hour walk for nothing. I would take these walks all the time. Not to the animal shelter, sometimes to the animal shelter, but I just wanted to like explore. I just wanted to like get out there and see what was out there in the world, that I would take walks for hours all by myself through this familiar place. I'd just be like walking around on the side of the road. And was that smart? I don't know. And one time I was pretty homesick, And I like kind of sort of was thinking back on the route that my parents would take to get me, and I knew that it was like an hour and 45-minute drive, and I was like seriously considering, yeah, I could walk back. I could walk back home. And when I would take a walk, I was eyeing that turn you get to the highway, and there was like a McDonald's down there, and I'm like, oh yeah, like that seems pretty homey. And I was like, I swear, I was about to like start hiking on the highway, like back home. Like, it was a serious consideration in my mind. I'm so glad that I didn't do it. But yeah, I dropped out of college because living on campus was really, really hard for me. And I moved back home. I worked at Walgreens part-time, went to community college, etc. And then eventually I decided I was going to go back to a university, a different one. And oh my goodness, living on campus sucked. Hated it. Living with roommates who bullied me. Sad. My roommate Mackenzie, she, don't sue me, there's lots of people with that name, but anyway, she made fun of me for like having autistic symptoms. She would like, and of course she didn't know it was autism and I didn't know it was autism, but like looking back on it, I'm like, that's crazy. The like commonality, like wow. It was brutal. And I didn't actually know that she was making fun of me. She was very, very passive aggressive, but I didn't pick up on that for a while. I thought she was actually really chill and cool. And I only realized that she was making fun of me because I found her Twitter account, because one day I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna look up my roommate on Twitter. And then I did, and her Twitter was dedicated to making fun of me. And she would like gossip about me and like take all these polls about like, oh, should I beat up my roommate? And she called me a witch. She called me an alien. She would say like, what planet am I from? She said I had the mentality of a 5-year-old. She like made fun of me for liking My Little Pony. She made fun of me for like wearing headphones like in my room. She made fun of me for running around campus and like all these random things, which I probably have to dig into my brain a little bit because I probably blocked out some of those memories and some of those tweets, but yeah, it was crazy. I also developed a really bad OCD when I was living away at college. I also developed an eating disorder while I was there. So, yeah, I had a very hard time away at college. And then when I was older, oh my gosh, almost forgot to mention. Okay, so a little bit time went by, and when I was like, I think I was like 24, and I moved into this townhouse. Did I have to move in there? I mean, it was pretty cheap, and like I was having trouble working, so kind of makes sense. But I moved into this place where like less than a year before, somebody had gotten murdered in the field across the street quite brutally. I go into this like house, and it has like this huge plaque of the 7 deadly sins on the kitchen wall, and while I'm living at that place, there's like physical fights breaking out between the roommates, and like sometimes the police get called, and it's kind of crazy. And anyway, I'm really glad that I didn't have like a lease, and it's not on my permanent record for like renting and everything, because my house manager who lived with us he pocketed my rent money for months, didn't pay, like, the owner of the house, and, right, so he was just stealing my money, basically, whatever. I was still getting to live there, so it was, like, you know, basically as if I paid the rent anyway, so I guess that's a good thing. Not a good thing, neutral thing. And, one day, he texted all of us and said that we're gonna have a big bug spraying, which I kind of argued with him about it. I said, we don't need to do that. And he was like, this is my decision. I'm the house manager. Anyway, I'm paying for it, so we're doing it. I need you all to leave the house for 2 nights. And that was kind of crazy to me, and luckily I had my parents, like, right over, you know, yonder in the next town, that I could just hop over and stay with them for 2 nights, and they could understand that. But, like, man, if I had, like, went later, if I was living there when I had moved away, like, I wouldn't have anywhere to go, and, like, hotels are so expensive, so, like, I guess if I didn't have anyone, I would have just, like, slept in my car. And he told us this, like, he didn't give us much of a heads up, you know, for this. So I go stay with my parents, and, you know, when I come back, it turns out, because one of the residents was this elderly lady, she was pretty old, even though she would say sometimes that I'm a lot younger than I look, I'm a lot tougher than I look. She would also get into physical fights with the other roommate. Sometimes she would start them. I did not participate in these fights. I am not a fighter. I am a platonic lover. So I don't know what I was saying. That was the stupidest thing I've ever said. But I think you know what I mean. So he had that elderly lady pay for his hotel room. He definitely took advantage of her. I went back, and I had work that day. I came back, so I was just resting in my bed, sleeping, of course, and I thought my house manager was back in his room. Whatever, don't care, all right? Bugs are taken care of. I hear this not just knocking, pounding on the door. Open up right, oh sorry, I don't want to scare my hamster. Open up right now, let us in, whatever, pounding. So somebody lets him in. I don't want to do that. And guess who it is? Is the police. What are they saying? They're saying that where is the house manager? He hasn't paid for this place in months. And they say, where is he? And we're like, I think he's in his room. Yeah, there was like a few of us living there. We're like, I think he's in his room. And they say, who are you guys? And we're like, we live here. We're the tenants. Like, we went, you know, through all that interview with the house manager. We've been paying him rent. Like, we live here. And she said, no. You guys aren't on record. You're all squatters. This has nothing to do with autism. This is just a really interesting story, and I'm getting so off topic. It's hard to stay on topic, man. I would have to write out an essay. I wish I could do. I guess it would take more effort, but it's not as authentic. I don't know if you guys like the rambling or if you would prefer a more on topic, but oh man, how I wish I was one of those people who could just say, I'm going to talk about this topic and I'm going to put down all these points and make this video. And they can just do it, not get off topic, not stumble, not ramble. Oh, those people are another, you know, there's something special. I'll say that. It's like a superpower to me. Okay, so they say we're all squatters, and you know, they haven't been receiving our money. So they tell us, you have 2 days to leave. And they say, where's the house manager? Oh, he's in his room. We go to his room, the door is locked. So they start banging on his door, no answer. They break down his door, and everything in his room is cleared out. He's gone. He had that old lady pay for his hotel room, and then he dipped on us. He took all our rent money and dipped, right? Thousands of dollars. and just dipped. Wow. Wow. Yeah, and like the police were, and everyone and the house owner were still on board with all of us leaving. We didn't really have a choice. I think like later down the road they were trying to make accommodations, but I was really already starting my plan of leaving, and I was frantic then. I was so frantic. I like I was an emotional mess. I got rid of so many things that were important to me, like all my Barbie DVDs, like my craft supplies to make room, because I was thinking that me and my hamsters were going to be able to would have to live in my car for a while. And my dad like had let me stay, you know, during those 2 days, but he's like, you can't live here. So I didn't think that I would be able to live with my parents, and I didn't have anywhere to go, especially finding something in 2 days. Luckily, I did have one connection, and I don't know if you have noticed, is something I have noticed very prominently, but in the world of finding housing, finding roommates, finding a job, finding things to do, etc. Connections are so important. It's something I seriously lack as somebody who has a lot of trouble making and maintaining friendships. That I don't have those connections, and a lot of people in my major, which is writing, I know that they have gotten jobs because of people they already know and have gotten them an in the industry. Sure, they have talent, but also that connection gets them through the door. That's something I really lack in life, which is a opposite of an asset. And what was I talking about? What was my train of thought? I was talking about how we got kicked out. He stole our rent money. Oh yeah. Luckily I had somebody that I had known since my childhood who let me like move in with her for a while. And then I moved away. During the time of me getting kicked out and thinking I was gonna live in my car, during that time my cat, which lived with my parents, but it was also my cat too, passed away. And I was grieving, and my ex at that time, I feel like, just handled my emotions really horribly, because like I try to be a pretty pleasant person, but like during that time I was sad. I was just sad. Like he also didn't really like offer to help, which I mean, I understand if you have your limitations and stuff, but as you can tell, like about to lose your home and your cat died, you don't know what's gonna happen to you or where you're gonna go. And I think that like I was really sad, and like all he cared about was like making out, which I didn't, you know. I can't believe I just said that, because it's like, it's so uncomfortable. I really don't like thinking about like exes and all like the bad stuff that happened, and that's just like really gross and awkward to think about. Like it leaves like a really icky feeling in me. That's just like a clear sign of somebody who doesn't truly love you. You know, like why would you do that? Like, can you imagine if like something terrible had happened to you, like, oh, like a family member passed away, or like your pet just passed away, or like you had just lost your home, basically, or something really horrible happened to you, and like your partner's like, yeah, but like, what about making out though? God, gross. So I lived with my friend for a little bit. I, tried to work this job, which I feel like working is a whole other topic that I could get into sometime, because I feel like that's a whole other spiel. Working. There's a lot to talk about there, so I don't want to get too into it now. But yeah, trouble with working, and I think I was also grieving, and like, pretty shortly after all of this was happening and stuff, and just like my boyfriend had broken up with me. I feel like that's something else to talk about, is just like friendship and dating struggles. Luckily I don't have that currently. I have a very good partner, but not in the past. And I feel like with autism, you're susceptible to falling into bad relationships, also with naivety. And I feel like it's also like having kind of like an open heart, but not even. I feel like it's mostly just naivety and like not really knowing what a good partner is, and kind of hard to explain right now and a lot to get into. But I ended up moving away because I decided that I needed a break from everything. Everything was really, really hard. My mental health was really bad. Everything was just so difficult. I was just like having meltdowns all the time. I just felt like there was something seriously wrong with me. Also, it felt like my ex had felt like there was something really, really wrong with me. That like, it was really weird because he just like, during the breakup, he just started yelling at me, saying that like I was doing all these things wrong, and that like, but he had never brought it up before, and I was like, how would I have known that? And he's like, yeah, you need to work on yourself, and then like maybe at some point we could like get back together. I was like, oh, okay. I think that he thought that I had anxiety, and that like someday it would just go away, or I could be fixed somehow. Me and like everybody around me did not know I had autism. For me, my autism is a very invisible disability. Having autism level 1, it could be very hard to distinguish. If you don't know me very well, if you don't know what autism is very well, you could mistake it for being anxiety, for being shy, for just having it be part of my personality, for being not very confident, for being immature, which is something that people have called me for. I mean, I have Disney Princess decal on my wall. A 5-year-old would adore my room. But I'm childlike, not childish, is what I like to say. I hate when people say, oh, you like animated movies, you're like so immature. And I'm like, maybe, but like, I'm not immature in the ways that matter, because I'm kind and I try to be a good, honest, open, empathetic, respectful communicator. I'm not passive aggressive, I'm not aggressive, I just like to politely address things, and honestly, I'm not like a bad person, so I don't think I'm like immature. Yeah. But I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit, but I had moved away. I think I was talking about how bad things were. Yeah, really. Work was hard. And I just had this dream. I had this little dream going on for a little while, that I would move out to the countryside where there would be horses and cows and goats and all these little animals that I could see when I was just driving by, because me living in the city suburbs, I did not see horses as I drove past. I did not see cows as I drove past. It was not that charming little quaint countryside. It was all very industrialized, very man-made, and I wanted more nature. Give me more of that nature. Give me some trees, give me some hills, give me some animals, give me some peace, right? So that was what I wanted, and that was something I was able to find and kind of manifest for myself, because the area I moved into was very cheap, and I think it was only just a coincidence that it was like kind of countryside and what I was looking for, because I was honestly just looking for the cheapest place in the entire United States, that was not like super sketchy. I was open to moving anywhere. I was down. I was like, I need to get away. I need a new home. Everything is so overwhelming. I just need some peace. And I was like, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna work on myself. And I'm going to just like take a sabbatical. You might like, I think, I understand if you're like looking at that and like are kind of jealous, like I wish I could take a sabbatical. It was a huge leap of faith. Like you can imagine that that's like a huge decision, but it was the right decision for me. It's also, I understand if you're not in a position where you can't leave and move on your own, but just I was able to. That is, you know, part of my life story. And also, it's not that I had the money to move, it's just that that location was dirt cheap, like way cheaper than what I was currently living. So almost aided me. Almost aided me. AIDED. Just wanted to make sure you knew what I was saying. Me, financially. So I moved down there, and like I'm not working as much. I take lots of walks around the trees. Beautiful. Wow. Gorgeous. And I work on myself, and do I do some things that are not that smart? Kind of. Because, well, I almost got sex trafficked when I was living there. Among other things that happened that weren't great or weren't smart. And I would say that in some ways it was, yeah, difficult living on my own. I lack a lot of street smarts and a lot of common sense. That's one of the many reasons why I feel like I'm grateful for my boyfriend, is because he has a lot of street smarts and a common sense, and he like really helps me with that, because on my own I was just really struggling. That was a huge tangent that lasted an hour, so let me know what you think, because I can also try the other option of really focusing and writing out an essay, and then I could read it as like a video essay for the video. Or I can keep going on tangents if you like just listening to me free talking with no edits, no rehearsal, just me and my mouth going. I think that that topic was about the difficulty of living on your own, even when you're autistic level 1, and how sometimes you can have naivety and make the wrong decisions if nobody is there for you and nobody is helping guide you. I feel like for me, I'm very fortunate, because there's lots of scenarios where I could have been kidnapped, where I trusted people too much or didn't see things as scary when they are scary. And it's kind of weird because I'm someone with movies and stuff that got scared very easily, but when it comes to real life and there's like an actual dangerous situation, I'm like, you know, cool as a cucumber, as they say. And I feel like for the next video I could talk about friendships and connecting with people, something. But yeah, it's been like officially an hour and right now. So I guess that's it. I'm sorry it was just so tangent-y. Bye.